pro-corporate GOP Farm Bill decried. And that's where I want to start. Pro-corporate Farm Bill decried. And it's very important. Last week, what everybody was listening to is that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Alexandria Ocasio Cortez and Jasmine Crockett, they got into a big, nasty argument that seemed like a Jerry Springer show. And if you look at TikTok and if you look at Facebook, if you look at Instagram, that's all those outtakes are there. And by the way, I'll have an outtake on that piece as well. Why will I have an outtake? Because it is something essential to show, right? While everybody is hyperventilating about this cat fight, two women going at it, the most intelligent thing done on that stage was something by our Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who used look, I know, yes, she called the lady by a bad adjective, but she used the way she did it as a to show the ineptitude of the chairman, to show the hypocrisy of the chairman. And nobody that I saw, at least in either the news media, the feed, the morning shows, really got it. They didn't get what this woman did. So when they asked her on the morning shows, do you regret what you did? And she said no. The next thing was, look at how they are. And they don't even regret sounding like Jerry Springer, not understanding exactly what she did. But we'll talk about that later if we get a chance. The real story right now is the Farm Bill. But you see, that story distracted from the proposed farm write-up that's occurring in Congress. Nobody's talking about this boring thing called the Farm Bill, though it affects more people than actually saw that Jerry Springer moment in Congress. That's why we are here. That's why we've got KPFT and Politics Done Right. So that we can point out to folks, both our urban folks or suburban folks and our farm folks, what's really happening. Title of the article that I want to highlight from Common Dreams last night, it's GOP Farm Bill decried as pro-corporate, anti-family waste of everyone's time. And they came to this. I think they wrote this article on Friday. It was right after that mix-up. But it goes like this: echoing early May criticism of House Republicans' blueprint for the next Farm Bill, anti-hunger and green groups on Friday fiercely condemned the GOP's discussion draft text of the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2024. That's where you get, how much people are going to get on SNAP, what kind of subsidies farms are going to get, etc. Released by the U.S. Committee on Agriculture Chair Glenn G.T. Thompson, Republican of Pennsylvania, the draft is competing with a Democratic proposal, Senate Agricultural, Nutritional, and Forestry Committee Chair Debbie Stabenow, Rural Prosperity and Food Security Act, while Thompson claimed that his bill is the product of extensive feedback from stakeholders and all members of the House, and is responsive to the needs of farm country through the incorporation of hundreds of bipartisan policies. Representative David Scott, Democrat of Georgia, the panel's ranking member, said the draft confirms his worst fears. Let's point out, because when we talk about stakeholders, a lot of times people don't know what we're talking about. When it comes to a farm bill, who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the big agri corporations. It is anyone receiving SNAP, anyone receiving food benefits, international relief agencies receiving food for, let's say to prevent starving in different places. By the way, if we can prevent starving in places where, we were partially responsible for their starving, it means that we wouldn't have an immigration crisis and many other things of that nature, So all these things tie in. Your policy, the policies that you pass, have effects long beyond the immediacy of the policy that's being written. So a person writing intelligent policy goes ahead and he looks through several levels of indirection. He or she says, all right, if I pass this, what happens? If I what then happens because of that other thing happening? You have to see what the cascading effects of your policies are. And it turns out, rural brothers and sisters, anybody listening to me that isn't in the big cities, etc., listen well, because this affects you. And the Republicans are not your friends. Remember, right here in Texas, they are doing what again? They're shutting down your hospitals with not accepting the Medicare expansion to the Affordable Care Act. Remember, they're shutting down your farms. And with this bill, we'll show you further. So as they speak about the conservative farmers supporting these Republican folks, remember who's taking money out of your pocket and food out of your mouth, and who are making sure that the monies that you get, the prices you get for your crops are lower than they should. How many farmers out there? Price of everything has gone up. The price of food, vegetables, everything is high. I would love if we were paying these high prices so that our farming brothers and sisters in rural America were making more money. If you were making that 30-something% or more that food prices has gone up over the last several years, if you were making the excess profits from that guy, I would kindly and happily say this is one place it's good for food prices to rise as our wages rise, because right now our wages are rising faster than inflation. So if that's the case, the inflation that I love is inflation that raised the prices of food, if that price is going towards getting a better way of life for our farmers, right? That's how it's supposed to work. Increase in food prices should mean an increase in wages for farmers, right? That's what it should mean. For people who are picking the fruit, for people who are growing the fruit, for people who invest in it. And that's what something like a budget, that what we're talking about here, the Farm Bill, that's what they're supposed to do. But señores, mis amigos y mis amigas, that's not what's happening. All right. House Republicans plan to pay for the Farm Bill by taking food out of the mouths of Americans' hungry children, restricting farmers from receiving the climate smart conservation funding they so desperately need, and barring the USDA from providing financial assistance to farmers in times of crisis, he warned, referring to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Now, here's the deal. Our corporations, specifically oil corporations, don't want anything done about green energy. They don't want to produce green energy. They don't, because digging up for oil and coal out of the ground is cheap. So their profit margin is huge. Green energy, until it's ramped up very well, it's not going to be there. So we continue to burn oil. We continue to burn all these things that create climate change. And in the process of creating climate change, you get more derechos, like we got here in Houston, that knocked out power for a whole lot of people. A lot of people are still without power. It causes damage. It causes hurricanes. It causes damaging winds that go through the crop of our breadbasket, and knocks down a large percentage of our brothers and sister farmers' crops. And in the process of still subsidizing these companies that damage our environment, and now removing subsidies from farmers, which would help during disasters like the derechos and the other problems that are created by our burning of fossil fuels, we are still subsidizing these companies as we go ahead and cut our farmers. And farmers, you're still voting Republican? You're still voting to support your demise? If you think this is some sort of a fluke, I'm going to jump from this article to another article. And this one is old, because this tells you the way of thinking. This one goes to the U.S. Agricultural Secretary, October 2nd, 2019, under former President Trump. The Trump administration message to small farmers: go big or go home. Sonny Perdue, President Trump's Agricultural Secretary said Tuesday during a stop in Wisconsin that he doesn't know if the family dairy farm can survive as the industry moves toward a factory model. And you know that factory model, what happens to it? It's subsidized by your government, our tax dollars. In America, the big get bigger and the small go out, Perdue said after an appearance of the World Dairy Expo in Madison. I don't think in America for any small business, we have a guaranteed income or guaranteed profitability. No, we don't. Purdue's visit comes as Wisconsin dairy farmers are wrestling with a host of problems, including declining milk prices, rising suicide rates, and the transition to larger farms with hundreds of thousands of animals and Mr. Trump's international trade wars. Let me tell you what the trade war did. The trade war told the milk farmer, because here's the deal. I already told you, we put in tariffs on China is the worst thing. When Trump did it, I decried it. And brother Biden is doing it now, and I'm decrying it. Let's give an example here. You put those tariffs on China, China gets pissed off. Just like we supposedly get pissed off because they are dumping steel here. What China said is, okay, you want to put tariffs on the steel? We'll simply stop buying milk. So, my rural brothers and sisters, when those tariffs went on in that Trump put on China, you know who paid the price? Every American paid more for products, but farmers could no longer sell milk. 43% decline in your milk. Okay? And what happens then is we went ahead and hear the people say, well, you know, guess what? The family farm just can't survive. So he went to Wisconsin and said that. It behooves me how poor Democrats in Wisconsin were in campaigning appropriately to show what's happening with GOP policy that specifically hurt GOP and other supporters. We got to get better than that. We got to get smarter than that. So again, you have the agricultural secretary for Trump telling small farmers, "Hey guys, there's no room for you guys anymore. We can't. The trend is to get bigger, not smaller. So the person who wants to have a small family farm and still play a part. And by the way, small family farms are the way to go. It is not more efficient than large farms because large farms take advantage with their size, but it's more sustainable. And why is it sustainable? Remember when we had the baby food crisis, when you concentrate into one factory, one owner, etc., when that one thing has a problem, it affects the entire system. When we have a whole hundreds of thousands of family farms and family cattling and family, all these things, we spread risk. What is supposed to be capitalism? The efficient allocation of resources. But guess what? The efficient allocation of resources can actually cause your demise. Yeah, big, huge factories are more expensive than running a whole lot of small factories, but it's very, very dangerous. So the Farm Bill continuing with the Farm Bill. Leaders at advocacy groups on Friday similarly slammed the Republican bill. T.Y. Jones, Cox Vice President for Food Assistance at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, reiterated her previous condemnation of GOP attempts to cut the benefits of hungry families, saying that this is unacceptable. Congress should reject it. I am pretty sure Congress will reject it if Americans are informed about not what's happening with Jasmine Crockett, not what's happening with MTG, not what's happening with Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, but the damage these companies are really doing to all of us. I bet most of you had no clue this disaster was occurring in Congress as we watch the spectacle, as we watch a spectacle of a Trump trial, as we watch the spectacle of Marjorie Greene Taylor, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But these are things as they keep us entertained. You know, there's this stuff called bread and circus. There's this thing. I was a member of the group called Move to Amend as a board member, and we went around the country and we had all these activities to try to make people aware of what's occurring. We were trying to get this past the 28th Amendment, which says corporations are not people and money is not speech. And to do that, we figured we have to educate the population as to how their government works. Civics isn't taught in school hardly anymore. And there was this skit that one of our Utah Move to Amend did where they talked about bread and circus. Keep you fed and entertained, and then they can do anything to you, which is where we're at right now. America, in as much as our food is expensive compared to how it was a few years ago, it's still the cheapest in the world, okay, relative to what we make. And here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. The funny thing is that they give us cheap processed foods. They entertain us with these real what they call it, real programs, reality based programs, and things that don't make you think, just entertain you. You know, I remember every time I'm sitting down here blogging, if I accidentally turn from a news channel in the past and turn to a Jerry Springer, it's amazing how attractive Jerry Springer was for its decadence. That is what they want to do, keep you entertained as they screw you, keep you fed as they screw you. They screw the farmers and everything else. And this is not conjecture. This is just, we've proven.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.